month of May is brought to you by Peak. Peak original equipment technology is formulated with the same corrosion-inhibiting technology that protected your vehicle when it left the factory. It provides excellent protection against rust and corrosion to all cooling system metals, including aluminum, and is fully compatible with other extended life coolants. With its line of premium 50/50 pre-diluted and concentrated coolant specifically designed to match the technology and color requirements of your specific vehicle, and color cues on the packaging and label in a list of covered vehicles make it easy to identify the right match for your vehicle. Find out more information about all Peak antifreeze and coolants at peakauto.com. And Drag Race Bracket Bonanza, the first dynamic competition for drag racing fans. Go to dragracebracketbonanza.com. It's free. When the fields are set on Saturday night at the Route 66 Nationals presented by Peak, pick all your round-by-round winners in all 4 pro categories. Sign up at dragracebracketbonanza.com at the link below. To start the video off, like we've been saying for the last few weeks, if you enjoy the content that we've been providing here for the last month, be sure to subscribe to the channel today so you don't miss a single bit of action, not only from the 108th running of the Indianapolis 500, but of course, the NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series season. As the summer months ramp up, you're going to see continuing coverage from races like Epping, from races like Bristol, Virginia, Norwalk, so forth, especially out towards the West Coast, and of course, leading up to the 70th edition of the U.S. Nationals. So if you like the coverage that we're providing here today, if you like NHRA drag racing, you like IndyCar, subscribe to the channel today. You never know what you're going to find on this channel. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So the track is full silent for the final time for the month of May until race day. The cars are being put in the shed, they're being put to bed, and they're going to be taking a little bit of a nap for the next 48 hours as they get set for Sunday's 500-mile race, weather permitted. However, if you can even see behind us right now, or if you've been around the town within the last 24 hours, it's been anything but. While the cars have turned it down a notch, the crowd has gone up another octave. It is officially race weekend for the Indianapolis 500. We were here last night, roaming around town. The lots are full, fans are roaming the streets, the parking lots are filled up, campers are all over the place. The party atmosphere is back in Indianapolis and is going on, especially here. We were setting up an E penthouse for the race, and the trams to get into the speedway were shut down because the crowd had actually taken over the vehicle tunnels going underneath the track. That is how packed this place is. Like, it is shoulder to shoulder in the Pagoda Plaza from what I can see right now. This place is crowded. It is officially race weekend. We are back in Indianapolis.
Yeah, it's your average Carb Day turnout. I mean, typically you see roughly about maybe, a fifth of the total spectator turnout for race day, because this is really the last chance to see the cars in practice mode before they are actually firing off in anger on Sunday. So, yeah, it's great to see. There's definitely a lot of things to see and do. We had a nice little demonstration from the Thunderbirds, recreating what they did 2 years ago. And, it was a pretty cool sight to see.
Not only that, of course, you have the Carb Day concert going on over there with George Thorngood, whoever the heck it is. And then, of course, the pit stop competition that's going to be going on the other side of where we're standing right now. So there's a lot to do in preparation for the 108th Indianapolis 500. That's, of course, depending on, whether it storms like it's predicted. We're actually looking at possibly, 20 years later, another tornado striking down in the Indianapolis metropolitan area on race day for the 500. The Storm Prediction Center just released their day 3 outlook, because we're within that range now, and Indianapolis got upgraded to an enhanced risk. Like, the National Weather Service station in Indianapolis is already warning fans, like, hey, watch out, because come the afternoon, it's going to get very unpredictable. They don't even know where these storms are really going to strike. They don't even know what they're going to produce. So, I mean, we're looking at possibly a repeat of 2004, 20 years later.
Yeah, so the Storm Prediction Center, they always issue these outlooks a couple days ahead, and their main job is to try to forecast tornadoes. And in 2004, we were under an enhanced risk during that race, and it did produce a F2 tornado that crossed through the city on the south side, but we get the iconic image of, congratulations, Buddy Rice, there is a tornado warning. So, we might see that again. The outlook for Sunday's race is not looking too hot. This month of May has been one of the wildest that I've seen on record, because the first day and a half of practice got rained out. We got 3 hours rain and then an hour break, so they cut it off at 6:07 on that day because it started raining again. We had 5 crashes before and during qualifying, And then we had this frantic 4 hours worth of practice in race trim because they lost so much time. So this has definitely been one of the more weirder months of Mays that I can remember. And it's most of it's thanks to weather.
Looking into the notes from today's session, you only had 2 hours, not a whole lot to go off of. It's pretty much just practice your pit stops, get your P's and Q's all in order, and then be ready for race day.
And another thing, too, is the fact that this is the first time that the race engines have ran in the cars. So it's getting those broken in, get some mileage on them, make sure everything has been installed correctly. So
looking at the notes, pretty messy at the start. Cars were spaced around all over the track for a bit. A lot of a mess, and it started to form together, kind of like how the storms are going to be come Sunday afternoon. Scott McLaughlin and Alex Palou put Larson in dirty air. We're not giving him any bit of room whatsoever in the first opening minutes of the session. Christian Rasmussen was the first lockup of the month, had a big lockup going to pit road while testing the limits of how far Indy can dive it in. Takuma Sato almost ran into the back of Connor Daly while going into his pit road entrance. So pretty crazy start to go off. Another one as well. Penske's continuing to look strong as they have been all month. Scott McLaughlin and Newgarden were swapping for the lead for most of the practice session that they were out there together, and Will Power just kind of ran in third and minded his own P's and Q's.
Yeah, so a couple of things. So this is the second practice. They were able to do this at the latter half of the first practice where you can enter pit lane off of turn number 4, which you will do under race conditions. You don't duck in on the warm-up lane on entry of turn 3. So for them, it's kind of like try to find the braking points where you can go quick to and then slam on the brakes. We saw Colton Herta try this in the Monday practice. He went from like 200 and something miles per hour down to 30 in like 4 seconds. So, you know, for these guys, it's just really trying to find that point of, hey, where can I slam on the brakes as late as possible and not get a penalty. And we did see a few penalties. Rasmussen, as you mentioned, and Takuma Sato, who almost had a little bit more of a penalty in putting the crew guys to work repairing a car.
Other notes to look at as well. Larson again was really running in the back of a lot of it. Let me try it again. Larson again not running back in a lot of dirty air, kept it mostly running in the top 10. I'm curious how he's going to handle during the pit stop sequences when he's running back around 15th. In other notes, McLaughlin exited the pits behind Marco. Marco slow rolled in the warm-up lane. Scott tried to pass but was blocked and wasted no time trying to pass people back up to the front. Will Power was practicing his 5 to go strategy where he just started snaking it all the way down to the pit wall and then snaking it down the backstretch, trying to play defensive against the rest of the field.
Yeah. So in terms of the snaking, it's been very... I don't want to say it's getting to a point where it's almost dangerous, but Will Power was doing his best mimic of Joseph Newgarden last year during the closing laps of the 500. Come on, guys, this is Carb Day. It's a practice. There's no need to be doing end-of-race maneuvers right now. There was one instance on the track where Carb was coming out of the pit lane and Scott Dixon was snaking and almost body-checked that car. So, you know, I know there are new rules in place to prevent that on the front straightaway, to prevent someone from accidentally diving through the pit lane at pace. But you have to kind of use your head a little bit out here. I mean, doing snaking like that in the first hour of a 2-hour session 2 days before race day, I think is a little optimistic, but it's just kind of a reality that we have to deal with. And the fact that they're practicing this.
No, the last of my notes, Kalamila looked very confident in his race car. David Land talked to him a couple days ago back on the Monday practice, and he said back then that he was very confident in his race car. Proved it today by pulling off a 3-wide turn, going to turn 1 all the way down against the wall. Kyle Larson had issues during his pit stop practices. I don't even know if they got one clean one in. The first one, they had an incident where they couldn't get the tire on correctly. The second one, they had an incident trying to get the car off the jacks. Then they ran the dang thing out of fuel, and they ended it by, running the car out of fuel and then practicing front wing changes as well. So a very hectic last 10 to 20 minutes for that HendrickCars.com Chevrolet.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, running it out of fuel was one that was definitely surprising. My first instinct when seeing him slow down is, oh no, it's another engine issue, because that's another little storyline that you kind of got to keep in mind is we had no less than 8 Honda engines replaced, and plus Chevy had a few engines replaced as well, plus the plum issue. So reliability is going to play a factor in this, but it's lucky for them it was just running out of fuel, because it could have been so much worse.
And then quickly, we're going to run to the top 10 real quick and give our closing thoughts of the afternoon. Scott Dixon ends up today number 1 with a 227.206. Elio Castroneves rounds out third. Pato O'Ward is the fastest Chevy of the session in third. Colton Herta, who looked oh so strong, in fourth. Tom Blomqvist is surprising, ending in fifth. Marcus Ericsson sixth. Augustine Canapino continues his strong surge from the qualifying run he made on Sunday, or Saturday I should say, ends up seventh. Felix Rosenquist, always faster, ends up eighth. Alex Palou ninth, and then, hey, who else but Ryan Hunter-Reay rounds out your top 10.
Yeah, some of my thoughts going through that was Chip Ganassi Racing looks very strong in race trip, particularly Alex Palou and Scott Dixon. Every session that we've had that we've ran race trim in, Scott Dixon's been in the top 5 solidly. Remember, on the first day of practice in that 20 minutes, he did a 229 in the draft. Today, he was the only one in the 227 range. The nearest guy was Elio Castroneves, who was like 226.9, and he was a 227.2. So the Ganassi cars look to have definite pace in race trim. It's just the quality where they really struggle. But here's the big question. Can they claw back the position they lost from their shortcomings in qualifying in race? The Penske cars, as you mentioned, all 3 of them look very strong. Will Power looks very comfortable at the head of the pack. Scott McLaughlin just looks comfortable wherever he puts that car. It could be at the head, the back, or the rear of the pack. And then Joseph Newgarden was kind of the one that kind of took the least laps, I believe, out of anybody. But you know, his is like Scott McLaughlin Jr. In terms of how his car looks. He's not as decisive as Scott, but you know, he's just as well off.
And to wrap it up here real quick, let's first hear a word from our sponsor Peak, and then we'll wrap it up for the month of May looking into race day.
Protect your vehicle with Peak Original Equipment Technology. Our formulas match the vehicle manufacturer's technology requirements so that we have the perfect match for every vehicle.
All right, so like we started off at the top of the video, like we said, this is the last time you're going to hear these cars until hopefully Sunday afternoon. We're going to have a lot to look forward to in that race. What do you think are going to be the keys to this race in order not to lose this 500? Because there's a lot of guys who have a really strong chance of winning this race, but one false move could really easily take them out of this race.
Well, if I could give up 3 keys that I think is going to, lead to a victory this year. Number 1, strategy. Because if this does come down to a situation like 2007, the last time we had a rain out, remember, a strategy call won that race for Dario Franchitti, where they opted to not pit him and leave him out, and they were within 10 laps of having to pit, but the rain came. The next thing, keeping your nose clean. This pack, when you group them all together, is probably one of the more aggressive packs that I've seen in terms of some of the moves being made. I mean, we're seeing people try to go outside in turn 2 to make passes, and you got to keep the nose clean. You got to be very self-aware of where you are. And the third thing, reliability. Reliability has been a big question mark this entire month, from literally the first practice session on Grand Prix weekend 2 weekends ago, where we had 2 engines go bad. So, there's 3 different major factors there that the teams are going to have to keep into check. And, if everything falls their way, then somebody's going to be $1 million plus a Corvette pace car richer.
A lot of those I'm going to agree with. I'm going to reiterate some of the same things. The biggest thing is going to be, minding your P's and Q's, not putting yourself in a bad position that's going to cost yourself this race. We've seen it time and time again where we've had so many fast cars get caught up in dumb accidents that they don't need to be in. You're not, like it's been said year after year after year, you don't win this race on lap 1, you don't win on lap 50, you don't win on lap 100. They pay you at lap 200, so you need to make sure you're there in order to win this thing. That's one of Roger Penske's biggest rules coming into this race. The next one, fuel conservation. We're going to see drivers like we've always have here. As soon as that green flag comes out, they're going to be immediately jumping to get to their fuel number and make it to the maximum stints that they can. Scott Dixon's been so good at that in the past, but that caught him out a couple years ago. Santino Ferrucci played the same game last year as Michael Cannon, ended up finishing 3rd. It's just such a big game of minding your cues and minding your fuel numbers as well that helps you win this race. And then just keeping yourself up at the front and having a shot to win this race, because that's what ended up getting Joseph Newgarden his first win last year. To wrap it up, 3 picks for the race of winners that could take this one. I'll start it off right here. My top guy, Will Power. At the end of qualifying, I would have said Scott McLaughlin. Watching Willpower, how he's run in this 2 practice sessions since qualifying, has really changed my dynamic on how I feel about this. You watch Willpower, I talked to him at the end of practice on Monday, said it's the most comfortable I feel all week. Compare this car to how well he ran in 2018 and said it was similar. You saw him in the practice session today, was very, very cautious, just ran back in third, didn't make any dumb moves, and put the car in the trailer and went home. He looks comfortable, he looks strong. We've seen he can pass, I think he's a good shot. Scott Dixon, you can never count the guy out. He's oh so fast at this racetrack. It's just something always bites him in the end. If he can finally have a clean race, he's going to be one of the guys to beat, especially with how strong he looks running at the front of that pack. Whatever gremlins were struggling from them in qualifying has gone away and then some. That car looks as strong as it has ever had at this speedway. Lastly, this is going to be a tough one. I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'm going to put a tie between Scott McLaughlin and Santino Ferrucci. Both of them look really strong. Scott McLaughlin, this is the most comfortable he's ever looked at this racetrack. His confidence has been built up to an all-time high. Starting on pole, running the Rick Mears car, wearing the fire suit. He has all the swagger within him to go and win this race, and he looks like the nerves aren't bothering him one bit. And Santino Ferrucci, you cannot count that guy out with Michael Cannon on that box. Every time he comes here, he has some of the strongest average finishes of anybody who comes to this racetrack. So you can never count out the AJ Foy Racing, not to mention the fact, sentimental favorite, seeing the 14 car go back to victory lane at the Speedway.
So for my picks, the first one is going to be the one I've been saying since we got on the oval configuration, when we started going that way instead of that way. Scott McLaughlin. And I've been very consistent this entire time in saying that there is just this aura around him this month where he hasn't put a foot wrong. And last year's race, he didn't put a foot wrong. The last time you could say that he did anything wrong here is when he crashed up on the north end 2 years ago. But he has the car underneath him now. And we know he can finish the 500 miles, and we know the car is pretty damn fast. So Scott McLaughlin is going to be the true one to beat. Now that I'm going to throw one out there from the Honda camp, might as well. And I'm going to say Colton Herta. Because out of the Andretti stable, he's in a ballpark of his own in terms of what he's able to do, the performance of the car. He doesn't have his dad on the box this year. So that is a downside for him. But that car just looks damn fast as well. It looks probably like one of the best out of the Honda bunch. And my third one, and this was my dark horse pick, you know what I'm going to say, it's going to be Scott Dixon. Now, the reason I'm saying Scott Dixon, do I think he has the car underneath him to carry him there on his own? I think he has a car that underneath him that'll carry him to the top 10 for sure, but there is nobody better in the history of the IndyCar Series than playing the cards he's dealt. And if this comes down to a situation like 2007, where Scott Dixon is in full fuel conservation mode, and there is weather hitting at 465 in Crawfordsville, he's going to win. There's just no doubt about that. So those are my three.
And that's going to wrap it up here for the Carb Day final practice session. The cars have been put to bed. The teams are going to get their final bit of rest or after this pit stop competition deal. And then, of course, we're going to get ready for the 108th running of the Indianapolis 500. So once again, as always, if you like the content that we provide here at Mighty Mac throughout the month of May and with the NHRA, be sure to subscribe to the channel today. Be sure to like, comment, and share the video with everybody you know. Give us your picks for who you think is going to win this Indianapolis 500 and give us your dark horses. Even your Rookie of the Years, let's be honest, it's Kyle Larson. It's a given. If it gave it to Alonso, they're going to give it to him.
And Jimmy.
Yeah, Ed Jones.
David Malukas.
Yeah, so as well, be sure to follow social media pages down below, Mighty Mac 03 on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that fun stuff. Thank you again to Peak Auto for sponsoring us the entire month of May and allowing us to be here and enjoy the sights and sounds that is the month of May, and as well Drag Race Bracket Bonanza for the continuing support of this on this channel since they started a year ago. So until Sunday afternoon, hopefully, God willing, maybe for the 108th running of the Indianapolis 500, tornado sirens pending.
By the way, if there is tornado sirens, you will get all the coverage of that exclusively here on Mighty Mac on YouTube. We will fight whoever we need to get shots of a tornado.
So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and until Sunday afternoon, hopefully this is the Mighty Mac. We will see you next time.